Episode 97. 1997 marked the start of the Asian financial crisis and was also the year of the passing away of Princess Diana. The number 97 is worn by the one and only Connor McDavid. And 1997 was also the year when the Nobel Prize was awarded for the discovery of prions as a cause of disease. Beyond MD, episode 97, here we go! Everyone, today we're going to start with a quote, and it's that change is hard at the start, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. This is a quote by one of my very favorite authors, Robin Sharma. It's a quote that I came across reading his book, The 5 a.m. Club, when I was traveling in Italy in September 2023. This quote is going to form the template for the discussion we are about to have. Today, I want to take you through the journey that I've been through to try and discover my purpose, some of the new things that I've been up to, and what this all means going forward. And then I will wrap today up with what I hope is an impactful message for our learners of today and our new staff as well, who recently started in July. So let me rewind the tape a little bit to talk about some of the struggles that I went through before I talk about finding purpose. But let's go back to 2022. The first issue that I was encountering is that I was doing way too many things. First and foremost, I really pride myself as being a present father and a loving husband. These are my two most important responsibilities. Of course, on top of this, there are other things going on. Since 2016, I've been working full-time as a radiologist, and really up until about a year and a half ago, I was on top of that picking up 1 to 2 locums every single week. And on top of that, I was picking up around 300 cases of ultrasounds and x-rays every week for clinics. And it was really just to ramp up my income. Initially, I told myself it's to gain experience, but then it continued and it was to ramp up my income. And once I jumped on that hamster wheel, I had a really hard time getting off. On top of the clinical work, I've been running Beyond MD, which is now hitting 5 years. And through Beyond MD, I took a deep dive into many different social media avenues that were sucking up a lot of my time. And along the way, I was trying to establish myself as an advocate for the physician community. Way too much going on. And there were two really important events in my life in the last 4 years that really struck a chord with me and really forced me to make some changes. The first event was a very unfortunate passing away of my father-in-law, so Seema's dad, Mahen Acharya. And his sudden deterioration in health showed me that life is so incredibly fragile. I knew after this, changes had to be made. Then there was one day in 2022, when I came back home from an incredibly busy day at the hospital. I entered the door of our house, and all I could think about was the hundreds of clinic cases that were waiting for me. Rohan and Zion came running to me. They were both asking me for something at the same time. I had not a moment to decompress, and I suddenly let out with energy, and I said, quote, "Kids, I am broken." These are strong words. It was a very emotional moment for me, but in that moment of emotion, there was a lot of clarity, a powerful realization that I had to make some serious changes. It turns out that 2023 was the year of change. After Seema's dad passed away, I told Seema, we talk about traveling the world, living experiences, but when are we going to do this? I think we need to start doing it now and not later. So 2023 was the year of travel. We ripped off the travel band-aid, started traveling the world and making memories as a family. 2023 was also the year of pulling back. March 2023 was an incredible family road trip down the coast of California. And that was the time I told myself that my vacations from here on are going to be strictly vacations. I'm going to be disconnecting. There's not going to be any radiology happening, no extra shifts. I need to disconnect. I need to allow my mind to rest, and I need to make sure that I am present so that I am spending quality time with the people that I love most. And finally, 2023 was the year of doing less. I finally took my dad's advice to absorb less content, to stimulate my mind less, to make sure that I go for those walks in nature without my headphones on and with my phone in my pocket. And I can tell you that it's allowed my mind to breathe. I've been so much more clear. And along the way, I had to make some drastic changes to my clinical workload. Over the last 2 years, I stopped picking up locums. No more locums. I reduced my clinical workload from 300 extra cases a week to just 75 cases that are strictly in my areas of interest, sports medicine, and rheumatology. I also stopped posting on Instagram. I stopped making YouTube videos, although my podcast will still air on YouTube. And I stuck to LinkedIn only. And on top of that, I've also given my group notice that I would like to go down to 4 days of work per week. And I'm very hopeful that 2026 will bring that to reality. And these changes are all so that I can give my best in the areas that matter most to me. The second area that I had a really difficult time with was social media. Late in 2024, I decided to take a course dedicated to expanding my reach on LinkedIn and growing on LinkedIn. And don't get me wrong, the course material was in fact quite strong, but there was a lot of focus on writing catchy hooks, catchy posts, getting lots of likes and reposts, and growing your following. I got a bit carried away with the metrics. I saw that people around me were absolutely crushing it. And then, instead of studying people and learning from them, I started to compare myself to others. Jay Shetty has this one saying, and I know that there's now some word circulating that Jay Shetty may be having a few issues, but anyways, he has this one powerful saying that comparison is a cancer of the mind. Instead of comparing ourselves to people who are doing really well, we should be studying them and learning from them. So I decided to take a bit of a break from social media and LinkedIn, and then I reapproached it with a fresh perspective that I would post only when I feel like it and only for the purposes of working on my writing, telling stories on topics that are deeply important to me and that would hopefully resonate with others, and to connect with like-minded people. And since I've adopted that new approach, things have been much more enjoyable and much more sustainable. Now, I'm going to get eventually to what my purpose is and how I started to put the pieces together. But there's a few more areas I would like to unravel because I think this could be very relevant to people listening. All this time where I had challenges doing too many things and also picking up too much work and struggling on social media, I found myself falling into this one very powerful mental trap, so powerful that I dedicated an entire podcast episode to it. And it's the arrival fallacy. As I was doing too many things, I found myself often engaging in these things simply to finish tasks, get things done, to seem busy. And as a result, I was focusing so much on the finish line, on the destination, rather than the process and what I was learning from it. I would pump out a series of podcasts and I would tell myself, well, what's next? I would write a bunch of LinkedIn posts and I would ask myself, what's next? What's the end goal of all this? Now, fortunately for me, you guys, my listeners, have always had a knack of reaching out to me when I've needed it most. Whenever I've started to doubt myself or whenever I've asked myself, what's the point of all this? I get an incredible message or I run into somebody and have an incredible conversation, and it gives me the motivation to just keep on going. And it aligns me back to what truly matters. One story that I'd like to share is I got an incredibly powerful email from a listener back in 2024. And they said that I recall a certain episode when you were talking about your experience and mentioning some of the incredible things that you had done with your father as a teenager, as a young adult, like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And I've been toying abstractly with the idea of wanting to do more of these types of things with my own family. The way you spoke out about your experiences really impacted me. And that was the final push I needed to do something similar. So long story short, I'm sending you this as I sit next to my 14-year-old son on a bullet train across Japan, concluding a tiring but very successful trip together. The memories of our time together and the bonding will last a lifetime. Thank you for your inspiration and putting good things out into the world. I don't know if this individual is listening. I will not mention them publicly, but if you are, you have no idea how much that message meant to me. And these are the messages that remind me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And more recently, I was actually stopped by a listener at the National Bank Open. It was at the men's semifinal matches, and they stopped me and they said, "Are you Yatin?" I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "I love your podcast. It's been so helpful for me in my first 5 years as staff. And I especially love the episode with your wife, Seema. I just want to let this individual know that you taking the time to stop me and talk to me, it has such an incredible impact on me. I can't tell you how much these moments mean to me. And with regards to my episode with Seema, I do have episode 100 coming up soon, and she will certainly be the guest on that episode. So to the listeners who have had a knack of reaching out to me when I've needed it most, I want to thank you so deeply for what you guys do. Now, as I was falling into the trap of the arrival fallacy, I was also at times running into a bit of a wall at work. I'm hitting around 10 years of practice in radiology, and in the last few years, there have been moments where I have felt like things are becoming a little bit repetitive, and maybe even at points mundane. The thing about radiology is, in my view, it is the highest volume specialty in medicine. So when you enter a space like this, you will start to do many of the same things day in and day out. The other thing is, although I do procedures, I spend most of my time doing diagnostic work, and I don't really have the opportunity to directly see the impact of my work. There's not really a feedback loop where someone comes to thank you at the end of it. And so I had to find ways to break this cycle at work. I asked myself, how can I take some of the things that I'm doing outside of work, like through Beyond MD, and the things that I'm enjoying through Beyond MD, and is there a way for me to incorporate these things into my day-to-day work in radiology? So what I did 2 years ago is, as you guys know, I took on the role of Director of Radiology Education at our hospital. This puts me in constant contact with trainees, medical students, and residents, and it's really Beyond MD, which is what reinforced for me my love of teaching. Earlier this year in March, I also took on a new challenge. I now cover nuclear medicine for our hospital, and nuclear medicine was something new and challenging. Beyond MD also taught me that I love new things and I love to challenge myself. The other practice that I'm now incorporating is the concept of the alter ego. And a lot of you will know about this through Kobe Bryant and his Black Mamba alter ego. But I, as a kid, used to really love reading Sherlock Holmes. And I recently picked up one of the books visiting my parents back in Kingston. And then I told myself, Sherlock Holmes was an incredibly curious and impactful individual. What if I go to work and I treat my work like that of a detective? What if I pretend like I'm Sherlock Holmes at work and that I have to figure out this case in front of me? Believe it or not, guys, it may sound a little bit corny, but I have embraced this alter ego of being a detective and specifically being Sherlock Holmes in my day-to-day work. And it's really allowed me to embrace curiosity. Again, something that Beyond MD taught me is so important, but it's taught me to embrace that curiosity day in, day out at work, and I'm finding a lot more joy and fulfillment. So now this brings me to my newest adventure, Beyond Radiology, which is the course that I just started. So hear me out. When I started releasing Beyond MD 5 years ago, I was getting a lot of messages from people who were following me on LinkedIn, and they would say, do you have a good radiology resource for medical students and for residents? Because we're not being taught much radiology in our training. I was scratching my head. I was thinking somebody surely must have figured this out by now, but clearly radiology is not being taught consistently enough. So 3.5 years ago, it was Christmas, just before 2022, I came up with the idea of building my own radiology course, my own curriculum, and using my knowledge and expertise in radiology to help out my fellow physician colleagues. And with that, guys, I'm really excited to share that I just released my first 2 radiology courses through Beyond Radiology. These first 2 courses are geared towards my colleagues in emergency medicine. The first course is a free course on CT head interpretation, helping to differentiate artifacts from true and often life-threatening pathology. And the next course is a 5-step overview on how to exclude a neurosurgical emergency on a CT head. Now, in my opinion, I think a course like this is relevant to people outside the emerge as well, like the ICU, internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics. And if you're wondering, yes, there will be more courses coming, but I've told myself I'm only going to do this as long as it's fun and manageable. So I'll be pumping them out when I can. And yes, there will also be some courses for my own colleagues in general radiology as well to address the pain points there. Now, getting back to the process of creating the course, in the last several years, there have been data points all around me that education like this is very necessary. The first data point was people reaching out to me on LinkedIn. The second data point was my day-to-day work. My emergency medicine colleagues who I love to work with on call, we would often discuss cases. I could see that questions were coming up, and I could see that there was a desire to learn more. Last year, I started giving rounds to the emergency department on CT head interpretation, and then I had a chance to present at the annual emergency medicine update in Toronto on CT head interpretation, and the feedback was universally positive. So the data was there that I could take my expertise, combine it with my passion for teaching, and solve a true need in the world. For me, those are the 3 key ingredients: combining your expertise with your passion and serving a need in the world. The only things I was lacking were time, sometimes confidence, and then sometimes a true belief in myself. The time issues I dealt with by letting go of a lot of clinical work. The confidence came after I analyzed all the data points I just talked about, and then the belief came with time, using positive language to talk to myself, not beating up myself on days when I wasn't getting that much done, but slowly picking away at things. Sometimes it was just 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Sometimes there would be enough time to work on 1 or 2 slides. And I was able to weave this project into the natural flow of my life rather than constant chaos. So for those of you who are interested, I will share the links to my new course in the show notes. For the time being, these courses are all DIY modules that one can work on at their own pace. And if there's enough interest down the road, there may be a live course with question answer opportunities, because I truly believe that we in radiology, we have a lot of knowledge that we've gathered over the years, and we want to be seen as consultants, not a commodity. And when I was in medical school, when I was learning about diseases of the eye and diseases of the skin, I wanted to learn from the experts. I wanted to learn from the ophthalmologists and the dermatologists. And similarly, I think we in radiology have a lot to offer. So how does this bring me to my purpose? Well, it turns out that over the last 5 years, I have done an incredible amount of tinkering. My path has been incredibly nonlinear. I started the podcast. I took on a teaching role at the hospital. I let this thought of this radiology course marinate in my mind for 3.5 years before pulling the trigger. And then I ultimately decided to ask myself 3 key questions on figuring out what might my purpose be. The first question I asked myself is, who do I want to help? Who do I want to serve? And the answer to that is you guys. It's my physician colleagues. That's why Beyond MD was started 5 years ago. That's why I created Beyond Radiology now. The second question I asked myself is, what do I want to help people with? I want to help people thrive both in the workplace and outside of the workplace. And the third question is, how am I going to help people? I want to help my colleagues in the workplace with avenues like Beyond Radiology to help people feel more confident with their radiology knowledge. And of course, I want my colleagues to thrive outside the workplace with knowledge in all areas of financial literacy. That's the area that I'm trying to fill with Beyond MD. So 3 questions. It might be worth asking yourself too if you're ever feeling stuck. And believe me, guys, I felt stuck for many, many years. Who are you trying to help? What are you trying to help them with? And how are you going to help them? 3 questions. Now I want to move on to my message to trainees and new staff. We have medical students who are about to start a new chapter of their lives in September. We have residents who just started July 1st and new staff who just started July 1st. So, my first message is to medical students. I encourage you to ask yourself the following questions when you are trying to figure out what area you might end up in. First question, ask yourself, do you like to go broad with your knowledge or do you like to keep a more narrow focus? Second question, in a given day, do you enjoy solving a few problems or do you enjoy solving many problems and problems of shorter duration? This second question really focuses on what is your desired attention span? And the third question is, what type of lifestyle and what type of schedule do you want to enjoy? Do you want to have weeks off at a time? Do you want to have days off at a time? Because guys, I can tell you that having this time off to maintain other interests in your life is so key. And then once you've gone through these first three questions of broad versus narrow knowledge base, few versus many problems, and what kind of life and schedule you want to have, these three questions will hopefully allow you to narrow down a list of possibilities. And once you have that narrower list of possibilities, I encourage you to do electives in all these areas to figure out what these jobs are like in real time. My message to residents: you're entering a very exciting chapter in your lives because medicine is a deep, vast, and universal language. So I encourage you to go very deep with your learning. This is the time to really kickstart that process. Go all in with your learning. And also don't be afraid to go beyond your bubble, because going to new locations, new cities, new programs, this will all teach you things that books can't. And my final message is to new staff who just started. You will learn more in your first few years as staff than you did in all of your training. There will be moments in the early years where work seems very hard. Sometimes you'll wonder, is this possible? Is this sustainable? I tell everybody, medicine is a process. It takes 5 or more years to begin feeling somewhat comfortable. My next point is don't get too comfortable, because comfort and growth are inversely related to one another. You have to pursue new opportunities, new challenges, and I encourage everybody to think about doing something new every 3 to 5 years. And so critical, maintain your outside interests. Your outside interests will give you that jump and that vitality in your day that you need to be your best at work. Just this week, I told myself that I need to get my golf game back to where it used to be. I played a terrible round last week, and my friend actually told me, "You're not really hitting the ball like you used to." That just set me off. I, back in the day, played so much golf. I eventually reached a 6 handicap. It became a part of my identity, something that I took a lot of pride and joy in. And over the last few years, as my kids have gotten older and I've had more time for golf, I haven't really allowed myself to get back into it. So now I told myself no excuses. Golf is going to become part of my life again. So guys, please maintain your outside interests. It keeps life really exciting. I want to thank all of you for listening, staying with me till the very end. You guys being here, supporting the show 5 years. We just hit 5 years at Beyond MD. It means the world to me. Beyond MD has been my passion project all this time, and it's one that I really plan to keep going. I hope you'll join me in 1 to 2 weeks. We've had a bit of a summer slowdown here, but the next episode is going to be focusing on death and taxes for incorporated professionals in Canada. It's going to be an incredible episode. Please don't miss it. And if you're getting value from the show, I'd be grateful if you can share it with a few people in your network. Guys, until next time, stay well, stay savvy.